Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Uncensored Self. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and today's conversation is about my upcoming workshop, Stop Running Your Business Like a Man. And I am recording this about 10 days before you are hearing it. And I'm doing that very intentionally because I'm walking you through the event and what it's about, but really my process of how I got to running my business really intuitively. Because I say that often on social media. If that's where you found me or followed along, I often tell people that I'm growing a wildly successful business without doing anything I don't want to do or doing only things that I love, right? And I talk a lot about my intuition and I intuitively got this idea and I intuitively got this idea and I'm doing this thing this way because I got a nudge to do this. And there's a lot of people that are like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Like, what are you doing over there? So I get those questions a lot, but then also this work came about because of my journey, right? So if you know my story, I've been studying universal law since about 2021. I started just as a student of the work. I started with my mentor, learned the energy game, right? Was in a completely different business at the time. And essentially just the more I did the work, the more I felt called to do the work, the more that I was experiencing what I was experiencing in my life, the more that I wanted to turn around and teach that, the more that I started to feel really disconnected from what I was doing in sales and marketing and really connecting to the energy game. But the question that continues to come up as I support more and more professional women in everything from entrepreneurs, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, partners in law firms, right? It's like, okay, but what do we do with this information? Like, it's amazing that I'm the creator of my reality, right? It's amazing that I can be, do, and have whatever I want, but how do I run a business in that space, right? How do I show up professionally in that space? How do I function in the world? And that was very much my story. Like I very often, even in the past couple of podcasts, talked about the idea that I could teach a masterclass on personal development, right? And intentional reality creation before I was actually able to do it. And this is one of the missing pieces was the masculine and feminine energetics. And actually the reason why it took me so long to get to masculine and feminine energetics and ultimately the event, Stop Running the Business Like a Man, is because I really resisted it because I knew that I have been living in my masculine energy. At the time when I started doing this work, when I was married to my ex-husband, I was very much in the masculine gender role in my home, in addition to constantly being in my masculine energy in running $1 million company, right? So what I knew that there wasn't a lot of feminine energy in me. And I guess, I don't know if it was protection. I don't know if I wasn't interested or really it just comes down to the idea of I wasn't interested in being more feminine. To me, being more feminine meant the gender stereotype of feminine, not feminine energy. And when I learned the difference between feminine energy and feminine, the gender role, right? Which again, at the time, there's no judgment in this if you wear the feminine energy, but I wasn't soft. Like to me, it was soft. It was not ambitious. It was, again, traditional stay-at-home mom, doesn't have a big career, lets the man lead. Like that was the vision I had of it. And that was not at all what I was living and not at all what I wanted. So studying masculine and feminine energy didn't make any sense to me. I was smart enough to know that I was living in my masculine energy and I was getting done at the time what I thought I needed to get done. So I kind of kept pushing off this part of the work. I kept telling myself, I really just need to understand, like go out and actually manifest something intentionally before you go down this path, right? Like go out and actually start living the work. And of course, as the work always works, the more I started living the work, the more I realized that I was getting more and more and more into my feminine energy. And that's why so many things in my life were changing because I was actually making space for them, right? I was making space for creativity. I was making space for taking care of myself. I was committed to doing breath work every single day. I was committed to going with the flow and planning less and just all of those things that led me more and more into my feminine energy. At the same time, all of this is happening. This is also when Derek and I started dating. So we started dating in 2023. And he has a lot of really big masculine energy. And so I was having to learn how to soften in that respect as well, right? Because in my previous relationship, it was like a total 180. And this is not a judgment of either man. This is just telling you these were the circumstances I was living. So I literally did a 180 with the relationship that I was in. And that was a big part of it too, was realizing that feminine doesn't mean soft as in weak. Feminine means soft as in letting him take care of me, letting him, support me, and not financially support me, but support me in my dreams and support me in my goals. But it also led to me learning how to play a support role. I had to learn how to play a support role. I haven't been in a support role since I was 30 something. I have been the masculine energy, the protector and provider, literally since 2010 that I can think of, that I can I can tell, that's where I can picture it. Right. So we're going from 2010 to, at this point in time, 20 2023, right? So this is 13 years, right? I know nothing about being a support role. I know nothing about feminine energy, and I feel really disconnected from my feminine energy, right? Like, I'm not super girly in a lot of ways. I'm not overly maternal, as in I'm not the Pinterest mom type, right? So I'm just really having my own identity crisis in all of this when I started studying the work. And then I went through a coaching program where the guy I took the program from taught about the Hermetic principles. And the Hermetic principles are in the book, The Kabbalion. I was not super interested in the book, The Kabbalion. I'm going to be real honest with you. It's super duper dry and hard to read. So don't run out. Go to ChatGPT and ask for the Cliffs Notes. But in the Kabbalion is the law of gender. And the law of gender says that everything has masculine and feminine energy, and everything from us as humans, right? We can obviously identify with that, but everything in the world, right? It takes, you want to grow a plant, you have to have a seed, but you have to have, soil of which to grow said plants, right? And we can go through all of those scenarios, to grow babies, right? You need a seed and you need a place to grow a baby. Everything has to have the seed, but there also has to be a place for the seed to be nurtured, right? Has to go through that gestation period, if you will, right? And once I started understanding that, it was this isn't feminine by the way of traditional gender roles of what a feminine woman looks like. It was feminine in the way of understanding that process, right? There has to be a giver and a receiver, right? There has to be a protector and a provider and a supporter, right? There has to be a leader and a follower. And the problem is, in our world, and this was very much my story, they're in this space where we see masculine and we see men as our adversaries, right? But if you go back to nature, which universal law is really in line with nature and spirituality, in nature, men and women aren't fighting. Male and female lions aren't fighting. They're never fighting. They're on the same team. They're partners in running their they're not a herd. Or is it like herding cats? I have no notes today, guys. This is really free flowing. This is me just flowing with you today. But you know what I'm saying? When you are in the wild, they're not fighting each other. The masculine and feminine, the male and female, our animal instinct is not to fight each other. We actually need one another to stay alive and to raise cubs. Right. And so that's the actual traditional nature of masculine and feminine energy, is it's supposed to work together. It's not one or the other. But the challenge is that as women, we are extremely adaptable. Right. So men are also adaptable, but as women, we can go more into our masculine energy than men feel comfortable coming into their feminine energy. That is just a standard. That's not true 100% of the time. Right. A lot of men can go full on into their masculine or their feminine energy. So I'm just kind of speaking on average, right? Typically speaking, women, we are more comfortable putting on our feminine energy than men are putting on masculine energy, or I'm sorry, feminine energy. So I hope that makes sense. And that has to do literally with our brains, right? Going back and forth between our right and left brain. We have more neural pathways. We have more lanes of traffic going back and forth. So all of that to say, as women, we also are very adaptable and we can do whatever is needed, right? So if our protector provider needs us to be in a support role, we could do that. But we also want to do what is valued. As women, being valued is extremely important to us, right? We want to be valuable. We want to be supportive. Well, what does society value? What is the world that we live in as professional women's value? It values masculine energy. It values production. It values protectors and providers. So as women, we stepped into that energy because, this is what it takes to be valued, is to be a protector and a provider. And we forgot how to be supporters. And this is not just in our relationships, because then we forgot how to support ourselves. So this is not just in a relationship with a significant other. This is actually in a relationship with ourselves. Well, the world values masculine energy, so I'm going to keep showing up in my masculine energy. And we completely shut off our connection to our feminine energy, very specifically as it relates to our careers, right? Some of you may be going back and forth between your masculine and feminine pretty naturally. For me, I did not, but I have a client who does. She can be in her masculine at work and she can be in her feminine in her marriage, and she's really, really great at that. Some of us better than others, but for me, it was just always on in the masculine, right? So that's that's kind of understanding. And like I said, I just wanted to kind of break this down for you as how I understood this in my journey, is how it led to this work, right? Because then what I realized was that if I I wanted to live more intuitively, which is more my feminine energy. That's great, but I still need the masculine, right? It is not, again, we are not adversaries. The energy inside of us is not adversarial. We need masculine and feminine energy to grow businesses. We need masculine and feminine energies to run our households. We need masculine and feminine energies to plan the family vacation. Again, the challenge for most of us as women is that because the world values masculine, values results, it values production, it values professionalism, and all the things that our world, the material things is what the world has taught us is valuable. We then got lost in our value. We then believed that our jobs and our careers were our value. That became our identity. So instead of, I talk a lot about that, right? Instead of just being a woman who runs a business, the business is who you are. And so when you get to that place of burnout and lack of fulfillment, which most of you listening to this are probably there in some space, right? Like that's where I was back in 2020 when I discovered this work. And it's probably where you are, is like, I have done so many things. I am so accomplished compared to what the world compares. Why am I not happy? Why am I not fulfilled? Why does this not feel better? And it's because of that. It's because I leaned into my masculine and more that I completely disconnected myself from my feminine energy. And then to add insult to injury, now, every baseline for business and careers that we have is driven by men, because for many, many years, women weren't able to work, right? Some people are going to say we weren't allowed to work, weren't able to work, right? But at one point in time, we were partners. We didn't need to work. It was okay for your spouse to go to work and take a paycheck, and for a woman to stay home. And, again, there's always, I always struggle to get into the gender roles, because there's always somebody who's like, no, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and her dad, like, I am assuming in the traditional model. I know, I am well aware that there are people who have had all sorts of different circumstances. I'm talking about the energetics and the intentions. And at one point in time, a family working together made sense. When you only needed one income to run a home, it made sense. It was how you could collaborate and be in partnership with your partner and have a really fulfilling life, right? And then, of course, women first wanted to go into the workforce and then felt we had to go into the workforce. And some of us still very much feel like we get to go into the workforce. Like for me, I get to work. I don't have to work. I don't, I get to work. This work is meaningful to me. Having a career is meaningful to me. So how do I have a career that is meaningful for me, that doesn't leave me living in my masculine energy all of the time to the point of burnout and dissatisfaction? But we have to invite the feminine in. We have to actually first, most of us reacquaint ourselves with our feminine. Some of us reacquaint ourselves with our healthy feminine, right? This is the dreamer. If you went through the feminine energy archetypes, right? That podcast series is really great. You should go listen to it. But the dreamer here, right? Like most of us haven't really connected with her in a long time, or we've connected with an unhealthy version of our dreamer, right? Our feminine energy actually is wind up, wounded and hurt in a lot of different ways, right? We feel overtaken advantage of. Some women have offered too much emotionally. Some of us has offered too much work-wise, right? A lot of us in our masculine, our overgive is in more work, more hours, more time, more work, more hours, more time. Overgivers on the dreamer side are, emotional, right? I give more emotionally. I make myself emotionally available. I take on everybody else's problems and I don't take care of myself. But one way or the other, we have lost the other side. And the law of gender says that one can't operate without the other. And so that's what I have been doing for the past couple of years. And that's where it's like, okay, well, I want to run this intuitive-led business, but I have to have some structure to work within. And I obviously, I run a business, so I have to have contracts, right? And, there has to be some structure to work within. And in a business, it requires masculine and feminine. And if you are following what is being taught in the world of business and career, you're likely following a masculine energy heavy model, because that's what's most prevalent. That's what we see. That's what we value, right? So the law of attraction at play, right? Our animal instincts as women to be adaptable and to be valuable has put us in this place where the only way we know how to grow a business is in masculine energy. And that is where the dissatisfaction is coming from. I buried that lead 14 minutes in. That is where the dissatisfaction, the lack of fulfillment, the lack of connection to your work is coming from, is that you are so in your masculine all the time that you haven't felt your feelings, right? I had a woman recently tell me she was numb. And, she's like, I don't even know what I'm feeling anymore, because you've been ignoring your feelings for so long. Because again, the world has taught us that our feelings are a problem. As women, we are too emotional. We're like, let's put those away. Put those away, right? And now all of a sudden we want to tap back into that. We want to feel again. We want to feel girly, and we want to feel supported, and we want to feel taken care of, and we want to do fun things, and we want to be creative, but we haven't done that in a really long time. And it can feel uncomfortable to go through that process, because you're going to learn a lot of things about yourself, some that you're going to be more excited about than others, right? So that was my journey. And the more that I started to study this, the more that I saw this beautiful opportunity for us as women who do want to have big careers and who do want to have big businesses and who do want to make a lot of money and who do want to make a really big impact in the world, there's this beautiful opportunity for us to build companies, careers, businesses in a really aligned way. Like we can quite literally change the landscape of business by merely bringing more feminine energetics into our work. What does that look like? So masculine energy, so doer energy in the feminine energy archetypes, right? Logical, linear, action-based, right? Very motivated in that way. It's all about, getting things done. Hunt, protect and provide. Go out, hunt something. Most companies that run very much in doer energy, like the goal is a revenue goal, right? That's it. That's all that's on there. Go out and find this number of dollars. Go hunt this many dollars. It's very linear, very KPI driven, very numbers driven, very metrics driven, very driven by the projections and the spreadsheets, right? Very driven by step-by-step processes and blueprints. It's got the machine thing going for it, right? Part of this workshop is like, how do I because I would say as women, like we are masterpieces, not machines, right? So business run in that masculine energy is machine based, right? I want us to go over here into our feminine energy, into our creativity, into our intuition, into our playfulness, into our, our ability to see a room. I always use the house analogy when I talk about masculine and feminine energy, right? Like you can build a house, very masculine, go build a house, dig a hole. I live in the Midwest, dig a hole, pour a foundation, do all the things. You can build a house and the house will be lovely and beautiful. But what is it missing? It's missing the thing that makes it beautiful. It's missing the feminine energy. That's when you come in with the furniture and the rugs and the window treatments and the wall art and the colors that you choose and the way the colors flow from room to room and the curtains and, the bedding and how each room, the style of each room, right? That they say it's like a house becomes a home. Masculine energy is the house. I protect and provide. I provided a safe space for you. It's feminine energy that comes in and creates the experience, right? Masculine energy is going to give you the space. It's the experience. What is the experience of the space? That is our feminine energy. And so many of our careers are missing that. What is the experience of your career other than to just go chase a number, other than to just go chase a corner office or a title? That's only going to satisfy you for so long. If the experience isn't amazing, if it doesn't play to your strengths, if it doesn't allow you to be who you truly are, it's always going to be, dissatisfying, right? You cannot be satisfied when you're out of alignment. It cannot feel amazing when you're out of alignment. It is impossible. So what I have been doing is I've been playing with this for my clients for a while now, of pulling in our masculine and feminine energy, right? Using our dreamer and our doer, getting into what I call alchemist energy, right? Playing the energy game. But how do we do that in business, right? How do we actually set our businesses up in a way where we really truly are supported by our businesses and we're not the one holding up our business? That's what we're going to do for 2 days and stop running your business like a man. And again, this is never throwing shade at men. This is all about how do we invite our feminine energy into the business, into the planning sessions, into the goals, into the work that we do, into how we want to work, the people we want to work with, the clients we want to serve, the team members we want to hire, right? Like all of that is going to look different when you're looking at this as a difference between just a house, right? This is just a business. It has 4 walls and, a bathroom and a kitchen, but it's real sterile and you come in here and it has no personality, but like it's a business, or it's a business where you come in and it feels amazing and it feels incredible and you want to be here and you want to hang out here and you want to invite your friends here and you feel like you're having the best time and you feel important and you feel cared for and you feel like you have shared interests with the people in there. Like that's the difference. Most of us are trying to grow sterile, boring businesses because that's what the world has taught us to do. And most of us are experiencing so much dissatisfaction for that to the point where it is overflowing to our health. It is overflowing to our marriages. It is overflowing to our friendships. To the point where a lot of women I talk to are like, I don't know who the fuck I am. And I'm talking everything women from their early 30s into their 60s are telling me this. I don't even know who I am anymore, right? I'm just a realtor or I'm just an entrepreneur. I'm just this thing. Like, who am I? What do I like? What do I enjoy? All of those different things are completely gone. And I just see this beautiful opportunity for women to build businesses and careers, invite their feminine energy back into the room, invite their magic back into the room, reconnect to who they truly are. And from there, build a career or a business that you are obsessed with, right? One that fulfills your life. It makes it better because when you are at your best, you are unstoppable, right? Like when you are on it, you know what I'm talking about. You can feel it in my voice right now. When you are, Abraham had called it tuned in, tapped in, turned on, right? Like when you're in flow, when you're doing something that really excites you, when you're lit up by what you are doing, everybody benefits from that. The ripple effect of a woman in her power is so fucking unbelievable. I can't even begin to tell you what it feels like and what it looks like, the impact of this. And so then I was like, let's bottle this energy up and let's put it in a room together. And I am so stoked about this experience because getting in a room with other women is always important, right? Getting in a room with other women, I think, as professionals, ending this whole idea of seeing women as competition, right? Like really getting into collaboration, I think is extremely powerful because again, that is a masculine energy idea of seeing other protectors and providers as competition. Because in the jungle, right? In nature, when is a lot of masculine energy, right? You become competition. You are competition. If there's only one deer and there's 4 lions, it will work together a little bit, but there is competition when it comes to the energy game. This is actually Wallace D. Wattles talks about this in The Science of Getting Rich. Like there is no competition on the creative plane, like as women, because we are not as obsessed with results. We are not as linear. There's actually not competition. So bringing women together in a space where it does not feel competitive, first and foremost, I think is pretty life-changing. But bringing women together in a space that is not competitive, but that also we are going to have a completely different conversation than quite frankly I have found. And guys, now that I've started doing this work, I'm looking and I found a couple of different spaces where there is a lot of talk about feminine energy, but most of it is being taught from a relationship standpoint. So the women that I have really been learning from lately, a lot of them, it is in interpersonal relationships. And again, I love relationships, but that's not my heart. My heart is business, because to me, being able to impact business, being able to impact money is so important for us as women, right? Because I always say the more money and power we put into the hands of women, good-hearted women who want to do good in the world, the better place the world is. And we are not taking the money out of anybody else's hands at all. Right? I'm not proposing that. I'm not saying that we don't want money in the hands of men. I am saying that as women, if we want to really be as powerful as we say that we are, then we have to own our shit financially. Like we just have to, right? We can no longer defer to a man in that way. I truly believe that. I maybe that is where the gender role is coming in, but being in a place where you are out of touch in that space, to me feels dangerous in today's world. Not just because, he could leave tomorrow, but just because the world is a crazy place, right? Being able to protect and provide for yourself is really important. So I won't get on my soapbox in that space at all. I'm sure we will have a lot of those conversations in this room. So there's 3 different ways to actually come to the event. First and foremost, there's just an attendee ticket. It's $1,500. There is then what I'm calling a premium ticket. That one's $2,250. It includes a dinner the night before the event starts, and then like a 2-hour intuitive business session with me, a virtual one for us to do together. So that's going to be really powerful and fun. And then there's also a VIP option. And in the VIP option, you get everything in the attendee ticket, everything in the premium ticket. And then also you and I will do a one-on-one VIP day sometime in Q4. So it will be a separate from the event, but an opportunity for us to spend time together. I only have 3 of those. One of them is claimed as of right now. So again, I'm recording this about 10 days before it's going to get into your inbox. So who knows? Maybe the event is sold out at that time. I do anticipate this event sells out, and again, really that is my energy. If you want to know why do I keep saying this event will sell out, this event will sell out, this event will sell out, because that's the energy game, right? My words create. So this is just as much for me as it is for you. And that's what I mean by like intuitively running this business. Like I practice what I preach. I do what I teach my clients. If you want, a booked out roster of clients, you have to continue to tell yourself that you have a booked out roster of clients, right? If you want to make $500,000 this year, you have to continue to tell yourself that you're going to make $500,000 this year, right? If I'm going to sell out this event, I'm going to have to continue to tell myself and you that of course this event is fucking sold out, and it feels so good and it's so fun. And at this point in time, at this recording, like my energy is so clean around this space that it will sell out, and that this conversation is going to be really monumental. I can feel it in my body that this body of work is really going to make a massive difference in the world for professional women, for women who have continued to build their value in their professionalism and in their protector and provider mode, and how they can make sure to balance that so they get to be all of them. Because when we are fully expressed, it's just the best feeling in the world. It's just the best feeling in the world. For me, the way I can describe it is every area of my life, like no matter what I'm doing, it feels good. When I'm working, it feels good. Recording this for you, working with my clients, creating ideas, creating content, like it just feels good. There's nothing about my work these days days that has any stickiness to it, except for on occasion, I get a little sticky about my calendar. Every now and again, I'll be like, eek, what's going on? But like, that's really it, But my relationship is so good and so fun. And it's just one of the most precious gifts of my life. And then my kids are just crushing it. And, my parents are up the street and my friends, and it just everything in life. When I look at my calendar, when I look at what I'm doing, it just sets my heart on fire. And I don't tell you this to brag. I tell you this because 5 years ago, it did not feel like this. It didn't feel like this. And quite frankly, 5 years ago, I had more money. I'll be real honest with you. I had more money 5 years ago, and my life never felt as good as it does right now. And what I mean by that is like I had more money in the bank. I had more cash in the bank. I had credit lines and stuff that I don't have now, right? So 5 years ago, I had a lot more things, and my life feels so different, and it feels like I am so aligned with everything that I do. And so to me, I know the money is coming, zero questions asked, right? But I know this time when the money comes, I'm going to be able to hold it, to sustain it, to keep it alive, because it's not fully built on me being in my masculine energy 100% of the time. So the business will continue to thrive as long as I continue to take care of myself. So if you want to join us, send me a DM. If you don't want to join the event, that's totally fine. I want you to hear the story that I told, and I want you to talk, really think about masculine and feminine energy in your life. Go revisit the feminine energy archetypes. That podcast series is really excellent, but thinking through where am I in my masculine and how can I reconnect to my feminine is just a really great reflection question. So if you're somebody who's like, the event is not for me right now, but I do really want to study this, you're going to see more and more of this out of me. Like, it's coming up in every single coaching call at this point in the game. I'm seeing it in every single area of life. So the body of work is really going to be, you're going to see more and more of that from me here. And like I said, if you feel called to be in this space, we would be delighted to have you. I will make sure there's a link in the comments. You can send me a DM. You can respond to email. You can send smoke signals. I'm really easy to find, guys. And I want to have a conversation with you because of the intimacy of this event. I just want to make sure that the alignment is there. So let's connect, and I hope to see you there. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.